Jessica Mans writes, "Hi AMCers, so I was watching Mailbag earlier and John's thoughts on the rumor of Avengers 3 being split into 2 films. If I understood John correctly, he was saying that there is no Avengers 3 book to be split. But my question is, what about Kill Bill? There is no Kill Bill book, but that was split into 2 films, so why not Avengers 3? Thanks from a grateful fan who watches every day."
Oh, well, thank you for watching every day. Okay, so for those of you who have not seen Mailbag, and we do a show on the weekends called AMC Mailbag, where all we do is take mailbag questions. This question came up about these reports going around that Avengers 3 is going to be split into 2 films. And what I so calmly try to explain, it wasn't very calm, what I so calmly try to explain is why this is a really stupid notion being floated around is because there is no Avengers 3 to split in half. So the point I made was I picked up a book and I said, look, the final Hunger Games book, what's the last name again? Mockingjay. Mockingjay, that was the final book in the series. They've been doing 1 movie per book, but they were splitting the last book into 2 films. Okay, that's splitting it. Kill Bill was a movie that was originally intended to be written as and shot as 1 movie. And they had it, and then when they had that one thing, they decided, no, we want to make it 2, and they split it into 2. The Hobbit was going to be originally split into 2, but they intended it as 2 films. They wrote it, they started shooting as 2 films, and then decided to split it into 3. There is no Avengers 3. Right, so basically what we're talking about is, are they going to do Avengers 4? And the answer to that question is yes. Now, I've had other people email me since Mailbag and say, well, John, what if they just plan to stretch the story of Thanos over into another movie? Isn't that kind of like splitting it? Well, no. Avengers 1 started off the story of Thanos. Really, the guy behind everything that happens in Avengers 1 is Thanos. So is Avengers 2 just Avengers 1 split in 2 because it's the continuation of the story of Thanos and what's going on? Not at all. So, look, they're going to do Avengers 4, and Avengers 4 may be the continuation story. They may not wrap everything up with Thanos in Avengers 3. And maybe that stretches into 4, but that's not Avengers 3 being split into 2. There's no book out there called Avengers 3 that they're splitting in 2. There's no script out there, finalized script, and in the planning stages for Avengers 3, and at the last second after they've started shooting, they've decided to split it into 2. There's going to be Avengers 3, there's going to be Avengers 4, there's going to be Avengers 5, there's going to be Avengers 6, but none of these are being split into other movies. Anyway, am I missing something here?
I mean, it is possible that the studio is going to do it. I hope that it's not true.
But to be able to do what?
Be able to, because what they could do is they could plan it out. They could plan out if they wanted to say, we want this, if the studio heads say, we need 2 parts for this movie. But
then that's not 1 movie being split in 2. Right. That's planning their next 2 movies.
But not necessarily. If they were sitting around saying, okay, what is, because they've obviously, Kevin Feige and the whole crew know where the storyline and the arcs for a certain part are going. So if they're sitting around, they're saying, okay, look, so Thanos needs to go here, here, and here. What do we do for, he's going to eventually end up here. And they start talking about all the plot points, and they go, that's a lot for 1 movie. Maybe we even need to split that into 2 separate movies. And because we don't want to split them out so many years ahead, we want to have them come out year after year. So why not just do Avengers 3 as 2 parts? I don't like it. I understand where that conversation could come in, because maybe they're just they're plotting and saying this is going to really take so much time. I understand where the studios could say, and then we can make a buttload of money on it.
But see, at that point, my premise is still at that point, there is no Avengers 3. There's no script on. So if they go, okay, we want Thanos to end up here, and that's going to take 2 movies to do. Okay, so Avengers 3 is this, and Avengers 4 is this. They're still not, there's nothing they're splitting.
No, because that's what I'm saying, is Avengers 4, though, would have to come out 3-4 years later, too. If they're splitting out, I agree. What I'd rather them do is film 1 long movie, film back to back, film 3 and 4, and then release 4 the way that they do with The Hobbit or something, too. But with splitting it, Avengers 3 Part 1, and leaving it on a cliffhanger, I guess like the last Hobbit movie did as well, too. They could do this because if it's like a plan, if they're plotting out to say, we want to just split it into 2 movies because it's going to be a 6-hour movie or a 5.5-hour movie, we can't release a 5.5-hour movie because the story's so elaborate, let's just do 2 parts.
See, that's why I think we're underestimating Feige. I think if they have a 6 more hours worth of story or 9 more hours worth of story, they're already planning it as Avengers 3 and Avengers 4.
I hope you're
4.
right.
You know,
yeah.
Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back ends with a big cliffhanger, right? Han's gone, Boba's got him, hands cut off, the rebellion's against the ropes. But they didn't take Empire Strikes Back and split it into 2 movies. They planned Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and I think that's what they're doing here. Like, in order to, the whole premise of this is this, for me anyway, is that in order to say you're splitting something in half means you already have to have something planned as one thing. And right now, they don't have something planned as one. They don't even have a script yet for the movie.
Yeah,
anyway.
let me add my 2 cents here. I think it's silly to talk about splitting Avengers 3 into any parts because there are no parts to split in the world of comic books. If you read comic books, there's been like 50,000 different Thanos comic book storylines. There's been hundreds and hundreds of different versions of the Avengers from issue 1 to 500, West Coast Avengers, these kind. I mean, the stories are limitless. So it's not like there's anything to split up or take apart. There are no books to split up. So using that terminology, I think, is just wrong-headed. You can't split Avengers 3 into 2 parts. There is nothing to split. It's simply, is there a 4th one that continues the story? And yeah, the 4th and the 5th and the 6th and the 7th and the 8th are all going to continue the Avengers. I mean, there's no way to split anything up. It's just a script. I mean, that to me is why the question is really, for comic books, it's wrong-headed. I get it from Mockingjay, you're splitting a book. You're taking something and splitting it in 2 because you've over-filmed stuff. You can't release a 4-hour movie, split it in 2. That makes sense. I don't think that's the case, especially with someone like Joss Whedon writing a super tight movie called Avengers: Age of Ultron. And, you know, they're not even calling it 3 or 4. They're doing it like with a subtitle. So, right. I mean, I don't even understand the question. It's so weird. You know, it's like, how can you split something that's not even splittable? It's a script. You know?
See, I mean, one thing that somebody wrote to me that is a really valid point. They say, okay, so you got Avengers: Age of Ultron. Let's say the next one is called Avengers: Infinity Gauntlet, for argument's sake, right? Avengers: Infinity Gauntlet Part 1 and Avengers: Infinity Gauntlet Part 2. That's a perfectly valid naming system for it, right? And I think that makes sense. But to me, that's still not splitting Avengers 2 and 3. That's just saying, okay, so now this next part of our Avengers story, we had the first part of the Avengers story, the second part, we're moving to the third. That just means there's a 4th part of it. And whatever they name it is kind of irrelevant. See, I only feel that they're splitting it if Joss Whedon, or let's face it, I think James Gunn is going to be directing Avengers 3. So let's just go with that for a second. It's make-believe. But so James Gunn is directing Avengers 3, and they start directing Avengers 3, and then halfway through the process of shooting it, and the script's written, they all sit back and go, like Peter Jackson did when they were doing the Hobbit films, sit back and go, you know what, there's too much here. Then that's splitting it. Right. But if they're planning it as successive movies, it's not splitting it, it's just planning the next chapter. Right. I don't know. You know what, the reality here is, I think 90% of what you and I are talking about is the same thing, just different semantics.
We both don't want it to happen.
We both don't want it to happen. We want part 4. Yeah. But I think this is, for a large part, I think this is partly semantic.
Hey everyone, if you liked this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC movie talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.